All right, and next we're going to look at this unfolding story about a journalist named Taylor Lorenz and her doxing of someone who runs a Twitter account. So Taylor Lorenz works for the Washington Post. If I open this, I'm going to get hit with a paywall and be unable to read the article anyways after a few seconds. Oh, look at that. Can't read it. Can't read our secret regime talk. Basically, Taylor Lorenz wrote this article about libs of TikTok. And so libs of TikTok is the account that has shown us stuff like this.
No tallywhack. Here is Madison Cawthorn's definition of a woman. X chromosomes, no tallywhacker. And this gives me a chance to talk about biological essentialism. First of all, it's not true. People have all kinds of chromosomes and all kinds of bodies. Women who've had hysterectomies, people born with certain conditions, but that's almost immaterial. Number two, it is a system of oppression. Gender is a hierarchy and a system of oppression. And the easier it is to define gender, the easier it is to keep the oppression going. It's dangerous. Here is
Alright, so this is the type of shit that libs of TikTok has been exposing. The way that the regime describes it is helping to steer the outrage machine at the center of right-wing messaging and legislation. So what happened is that this Libs of TikTok account posted videos of people like this, but even more importantly, kindergarten, first grade, second grade teachers all talking a bunch of bullshit about how they discuss sexuality with their students. And so, like the Don't Say Gay bill, which we talked about last week, basically the whole point of the reason that a lot of that shit got press is because Libs of TikTok was putting out clips of people just saying the craziest shit, like this fucking gentleman who, I mean, seemingly is like the inspiration for Joaquin Phoenix's The Joker. This person's a complete fucking lunatic, and the regime wants to protect them. It wants to protect them so them can put out them's messaging about themselves. I don't know if I said all that right. Hopefully no knock at the door. But yeah, this is the type of shit that was getting exposed by Libs of TikTok. And so, of course, Taylor Lorenz had to write a fucking, article. Here's another one. We're going to look at this, all right? So here's the quote here. If your parents don't accept you for who you are, fuck them. I'm your parents now. So again, this is the type of shit that teachers are saying, and the media tries to tell you that,
hey, if your parents don't love and
the media tries to tell you that right-wingers are opposed to gender ideology, or right-wingers hate trans kids, and it's just like, no, plenty of people who aren't right-wingers like myself just oppose this bullshit on principle because it's obvious lies, it's obviously an ideology, it's obviously meant to turn kids into activists and sever the ties between them and their parents. And I was talking a long time ago about the need for parents to go to school board meetings, talk about critical race bullshit, talk about gender bullshit, and I do think it can be an easy out for someone to say, well, you don't even have kids, so why do you even care about it? But I know people with kids, and one day I might have a kid, and so I'd like to ensure that they're set up to not have civilization completely fucking unravel within their lifetime if that is the case. Let's see what this well-adjusted individual with awesome hair has to say.
hey, if your parents don't love and accept you for who you are this Christmas, fuck them. I'm your parent now. I'm proud of you. Drink some water. I love you. Bye.
Alright, so let's be honest in our criticism and say that the drinking water thing is really good advice. And I want to applaud this person for advocating that students drink trans water. Trans water is different than regular water. See, trans water is, water has like 3 states, it's like, It's like a liquid, it's a gas, or it's frozen. It can be a solid. And trans water does all those things at once. So he could, he's basically saying, like, drink a glass of ice or drink a bag of water vapor. It's called trans water. It's different. It's a lot like smart water. And so here's the thing, right? Taylor Lorenz did this fucking interview where she talked about how bad online harassment is. And she says that it can pour into real life situation. And let's see what she has to say. I hope this is the one where she fucking cries.
Marginalized identity.
And I mean, I understand that she's really worried about online harassment and stuff like this. Let me just say that this bitch is extremely unattractive. And it's not just her looks, it's mostly the way that she acts, but also her looks. Sorry, that's online harassment, Taylor. Stupid bitch.
And online harassment is such a misnomer. I think it's a huge problem because harassment is a tool to silence people, especially women and people of color or people from marginalized.
It's a tool to silence people, especially women and people of color and people from marginalized groups.
Identities for speaking out, and there's a very intentional goal behind it. It's obviously it's death threats and all of that and rape threats on the daily. And
let's be real, no one is threatening to rape this bitch.
It's not just Twitter, it's like every single surface, right?
I think I think her having consensual sex with another dude might qualify as rape just because she's so gross.
Cell phone number getting out there, people calling, people harassing my family members.
Oh, your cell phone number got out there? You mean like when your colleague I deleted the tab, but is that like when your colleague reached out to a guy because of his fucking Twitter post and put her phone number in the message? Is that how your number gets out there?
Stalking me, all of that is incredibly.
Imagine thinking that someone is stalking you and you look like you got kicked in the face by a horse.
Terrifying and invasive, and it's bled out into the physical world too, which is even more terrifying, right?
Yeah.
But to me, I think what especially the media needs to understand about this is, in terms of protecting their own reporters, is this is just a tool. Like, harassment is
protecting your reporters.
A tool to kind of discredit and
just so everyone understands, this chick's entire body of work is trying to get people fired for shit that they say online.
Silence journalists, and the right-wing media plays along with it, right? You mentioned Tucker Carlson.
Right, so the right-wing media plays along with it. So, I mean, the people critiquing Taylor Lorenz are obviously right-wing people, right? And she talks about harassment, and how about this? Look at this. Taylor Lorenz outside the house of one of the relatives of the chick who runs the Libs of TikTok page. So she's paid by the Washington Post. She's paid by the Washington Post. She used to work at the New York Times. She's paid by them to travel around the country trying to get people fired from their jobs for shit they say online. And here she is trying to fucking she's literally knocking on the door of a relative of someone who runs a TikTok account to try to write an article about them. Wait, I think this is perfect. Here's the clip where she actually complains about her family getting doxxed.
These are all photos of your family members. Yeah, children. These are Taylor Lorenz's loved ones. They have photos. Wow, these are all photos of your family members. Yeah, children. Yeah, no, children.
All right, so see, it's amazing. What are these people thinking? They're coming to my house. They're going to my relatives' houses, and yet, as we just saw, here's her outside of someone's relative's house. This is the type of shit that she says. She's a complete lunatic. And like I said, fuck this lady. But she's literally targeted people's children in the past, actually. So, yeah. And here is what's great as well. So this lady is Ron DeSantis's press secretary, I want to say. I want to say that's what she is. She doesn't say what her exact position is, but here's why private citizen Libs of TikTok incurred the wrath of Washington Post Taylor Lorenz. Right? And this is kind of just a recap of what I was explaining earlier, but it's just worthwhile because the brevity and concise nature of Ron DeSantis' takedowns of the media is sort of paralleled by that of his press secretary here. I'm going to say press secretary just for shorthand. It could be some slightly different position, director of communications or some bullshit like that. Anyways, degenerate progressives posted public videos about how they have sexually explicit conversations with minors. Libs of TikTok reposted those videos. The degenerates faced professional consequences. So oligarch-owned state media, remember this shit is owned by Jeff Bezos. The Washington Post is being wielded, right? Remember, to push Biden regime, Pentagon, and FBI talking points, defend left-wing degenerates, and now intimidate and dox private citizens who try to protect kids from left-wing degenerates. Taylor Lorenz was crying on MSNBC about her experience with online violence, but she has no problem using Bezos money to stalk a private citizen's relatives by showing up at their homes because she's mad that libs of TikTok reposted videos of degenerate predators. So and then some fucking dickhead is like, you like Donald Trump? I mean, seriously, imagine being that person in 2022. So yeah, I think we covered most of what I wanted to talk about as far as that. But, you know, it's been a long, long push for the media to portray themselves as victims. And what's interesting about it is the ideological push that they're making is on behalf of the regime. So the media and journalists like Taylor Lorenz write articles that perpetuate a narrative that's determined by the regime. And then the regime backs them up by giving them the resources and the publicity necessary to portray themselves as the victims. And in that way, the regime is portraying itself as the victim. And that's why you saw so much legislation talking about how anybody who disagrees with COVID things is, mandates and restrictions is a terrorist, potentially. Literally, that's the type of stuff they were saying. So I just want people to be able to, in real time, look at a piece of news from somewhere like the Washington Post and see why it's agenda-driven bullshit. Thank you for listening today.